This video is for A-level macroeconomics and it's looking at monetary policy and the use of the transmission mechanism. So with regards to the transmission mechanism, what we're going to be looking at is how the Monetary Policy Committee can use the central bank policy rate to influence economic activity and achieve their inflation target. So let's imagine that the inflation rate was below the inflation target. So the Monetary Policy Committee will use the central bank policy rate to try to stimulate economic growth and to try to achieve higher levels of inflation to reach that 2% target. Or let's imagine that the inflation rate was above the 2% target. So then the central bank policy rate will be changed in order to try to reduce economic activity, to cause disinflation and bring it back down to that 2%. So within this video, we're specifically going to be looking at how it can influence expectations in the economy. So let's have a look at 2021, 0.1%, and let's imagine that the Bank of England decides to increase the interest rate. So once they increase the interest rates, what that will do is it will influence expectations about the future course of real activity in the economy and the confidence with which those expectations are held. So such changes in perception will affect participants and economic agents, whether that's in the financial markets or other industry, whether that's households in terms of labour or consumers. So what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at specific economic agents of businesses and households. And if the central bank believe that it's necessary for a rate rise, then it could be interpreted as signalling to the economy that it needs to slow down and it needs to slow that growth. And this could dent expectations of future growth and it could lower confidence. So to begin with, let's look at firms. If firms obviously see the news about the central bank increasing interest rates, what they might expect is negative expectations, because they might think their turnover and profit could be impacted directly. Because what firms will start to think about is they'll start to predict, well, what's going to happen to our turnover? What's going to happen to the demand for our products? How are customers going to react to that rate rise? And they might negatively expect that customers will start to think that they probably should start to save their money because, well, for one, they're going to get a better return, but also they're unsure in terms of what's going to happen to the economy. And if it slows down the economy, then they might worry about, obviously, their level of spending, which will then lower consumption. And if firms are worried about their turnover, then they're obviously going to react to that. They're going to control their costs. They might put a freeze on recruitment. They might start to slow down their investment. And in doing that, obviously, that's going to directly impact households as well. Because what we'll have is we'll have households worrying about their job security. If they think, okay, their firm's turnover is going to fall, firms are going to be more controlling of costs, that might include, obviously, rationalising the business, and that could even result in redundancies. They might worry about their wages because they're thinking, well, if the central bank are increasing interest rates, that means the central bank is worried about inflation. And if my wages haven't risen, then in real terms, I'm actually going to be worse off. And again, that might mean that households start to think about where they should be spending their money and the level of spending that they are doing at that moment in time. Should they slow it down? And obviously then that knocks onto firms. So this relates to a key economic concept called animal spirits, which was coined by John Maynard Keynes. And this referred to the emotional mindsets of economic agents. So confidence means an expectation of a bright future, but that's not only the way people use it when discussing money. In fact, common usage emphasises the world's implication of trust and belief. If there's negative confidence, negative expectations, then there's going to be maybe a lack of trust and belief about long term and about how the economy is going to operate. So what we're going to have is, because of that policy rate increasing, expectations are going to become negative, which is going to obviously impact the domestic demand of the economy, lowering aggregate demand and causing an increase in the output gap. And in doing so, what that will do is bring down inflation, which is obviously what the central bank is trying to achieve.